Hi guys, this is Charlie with Boxing Focus and a belated reaction to David Price's second loss to Tony Thompson. I thought the commentary was biased to the point that they weren't realistic about what was happening in the ring. From what I could see, Tony Thompson was fighting a smart fight. He was making Price miss with a modicum of head movement. And he just did a good professional job on him. He worked the body. He was pacing himself well. He was letting, he was making. Well, he wasn't making Price throw. He was letting Price. He was making Price miss, and then he was letting Price work as hard as Price wanted to work. He wasn't, he wasn't like he was running away. He was staying close enough that Price wanted to throw punches, and Price was just fighting without composure. He was throwing so much, so hard, so unintelligently, and he was fighting at a pace he couldn't keep up. He gassed badly, but some of that was down to the work that Tony Thompson was doing, and a lot of it down to Tony Thompson's defense. Price was not landing that much clean. It was mainly the stuff he was landing tended to be cuffing. He did land one good clean shot which dropped Tony Thompson. When you get hit by a guy as big as David Price, when you get hit cleanly, you're going to go down basically. And Thompson got caught in an exchange, which was the one time that it was really somewhere that he shouldn't have been. But he wasn't that badly hurt. He got up. The commentators were making it out like Thompson was out on his feet. I'm sure he was buzzed, but he wasn't on Silly Street. And but Price threw everything at Thompson the next round without really thinking about what he was doing, and then he had nothing left, and so Thompson had a relatively easy job finishing the fight. He couldn't miss. It showed that David Price can take a punch. He took a lot of heavy clean shots from Thompson, who's got a good knockout percentage, but it also showed something that is a big problem for David Price, and that's that he's almost too big and strong for his own good. And what do I mean by that? Price rolled over everybody else that he fought up until Tony Thompson. The ones that he didn't knock out they knew enough of David Price's power, or they felt it enough to not offer any kind of threat coming back. When you're as big and strong as David Price, when you hit someone who's he's 6'8", he's athletic and he's coordinated. When he hits someone who's 6'2", it shakes them to their boots. You saw how the likes of Sam Sexton, John McDermott reacted. It's just difficult to find opponents for somebody as big as David Price that are going to test him. I say as big as David Price, I mean as big and athletic. You can compare him to Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury does not have the natural athleticism. He's had to train it into himself. It could just be that could be a facet of the fact that Price turned pro later in his life, so he was much more developed. But Tyson Fury had to scrap through a lot of his early wins because he didn't have that natural coordination. He wasn't as strong as he is now, so when he was hitting people, it wasn't knocking them out. And he had to learn his trade, which he's had to learn the professional game by having battles with people that were testing him. David Price hasn't had that, and it's not totally David Price's fault. Boxing as a sport is not that deep anymore because there's so many alternatives out there. He wants to have their brains rattled around for a living and end up struggling later in life. Big, strong, athletic guys don't tend to go towards boxing. There's plenty of other things for them to do, sports and otherwise, so don't have the kind of poverty that drove a lot of guys into fighting for a living, especially in the UK. So there's just domestically, there's not been anything for him that's there to help him develop as a fighter. I don't think the fights with John McDermott, where every punch Price landed dropped John, I don't think that kind of stuff helped Price at all. You know, he may as well have been sparring. Probably had sparring sessions that were more useful, and that's not a knock on John McDermott. He's a lot smaller, and he's not physically in the kind of shape he needed to be to stay away from Price. And when he got punched, down he went. Which brings up the question: where does Price go from here? I mean, does he go back to fighting Audley Harrisons and knocking them out cold? Does that help him at all? They've got to look for guys that are going to test him, that are going to punch back, but are perhaps not as seasoned as Tony Thompson is. And there's not that many. I mean, not that many spring to mind, to be honest. You know? You can tell from the silence. I don't have any ideas. I'm sure Frank Maloney's poor guy. You know, he was in tears at the end, but I'm sure he's got to put a lot of thought into who he matches David Price with next. I'm not a big fan of matching fighters. I do think that, you know, I do quite like the way, for example, Chisora has fought everybody that's wanted a fight. But at the same time, you know, you don't want your guy getting knocked out repeatedly, or you don't want him bowling over easy opponents, because that doesn't help him. So it's a tough spot for David Price. But you know, 2 good victories for Tony Thompson. It was no mug. You know, I think he was a little bit underestimated by Price's camp. Perhaps more of Price's camp overestimated David because of the way he was knocking everybody out. This was the first guy that really stood up to him and challenged him, and it's gone pear-shaped. And a lot of that is down to experience. Price, like I said, no composure when he was under pressure, no idea how to inside fight, didn't stick to a strategy, isn't working behind the jab, isn't making use of his size or coordination, just got drawn into something that especially the second fight, got drawn into trying to knock Tony Thompson out when he hadn't set it up at all. He hadn't set up his punches, he hadn't set up situations where Thompson was hurt and reeling, and he just needs more tough but fights, tough but not too tough, and that itself is a tough ask because there aren't that many guys. But Tony Thompson, you know, he's a good old seasoned pro. The guy's only lost twice to Vladimir Klitschko. He's got 3 losses on his record. One of them was, you know, a 4-round points loss like 13 odd years ago. It's not really relevant, but hopefully he's going to be fighting Derek Chisora. That would be a good fight. I look forward to that. I think Chisora wins it. So yeah. I think Chisora's not going to he's not going to find Thompson too powerful, and he's basically going to take Thompson to deep waters. And when you're 43 and you've got someone who won't go anywhere thumping you in the body and you're dog tired, I don't think Thompson will have the heart to stick around deep into that fight. So, but that's another one. Let me know what you thought of Price in the comments. Subscribe and all that other YouTube nonsense, and look forward to continuing the conversation. This is Charlie.